Welcome back. Now we're slap bang in the middle of holiday season, and for many, one of the things they look forward to most on their jolliers is settling down with a good book.
Oh, it's so important, isn't it? Which is why authors Claudia Carroll and Caroline Busher are here to take us through their top reads for summer 2018 for young and for old. Good morning to you, ladies.
Morning, ladies.
Morning.
Thank you very much.
Brought lovely colour to our couch this morning.
Thank you. Here. Thank you.
Claudia, we are going to go to you first. The tattooist of Auschwitz.
I know, it doesn't sound very summery, does it?
I was just about to say, I can't see myself sipping my mojito to this now.
It is, I should have had a copy with me, but I've builders in the house at the moment who I promised I'd say hello to Stephen and Ray, who are having their break at the minute. Anyway, The Tattooist of Auschwitz is written by Heather Morris.
And it's actually a love story.
It's actually a true story and a love story, but it's about when Auschwitz-Birkenau was it's set in sort of 1942-43, so just before the liberation. The tattooist was given a job of, you know, when people came in and they presented their arms and he had to put the numbers on them. I mean, just unthinkable. But it's a love story and it's entirely based on a true story. And you're reading this and you know, obviously, because he's writing the book, that he gets out at the end, but you don't know what he goes on to do. And it's just, you know, in the midst of all of that, the worst of human nature, and all of that pain and all of that terror and just the atrocities that went on, that this beautiful love story came out of it. So it's sort of hope side by side with horror. So trust me, it is a really great
So there are
read.
uplifting parts.
There are, it's astonishing. You cry in a good way.
In a good way, OK. Good tears.
Caroline, we have a book here from Louise O'Neill, which is it's a retelling of The Little Mermaid from a feminist perspective. The Surface Breaks.
The Surface Breaks. It's a phenomenal book. And again, I'm always a big I'm a children's author myself, but I'm an advocate for people reading children's and YA fiction because it's phenomenal. This one is a retelling of Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Little Mermaid. And it's about a mermaid called Gaia who lives off the coast of Ireland under the cold Irish Sea. And she dreams of being a human, as any mermaid would. And it's basically the story, but it's not, there's kind of like a little bit of trouble involved before she becomes, you know, human. So it's a very complex, thought-provoking book, as Louise O'Neill's books are, but absolutely beautifully written. The world building in it is phenomenal. It's really well worth a read.
And that's the key to YA, isn't it? It's building that world and letting their imaginations go wild.
Yes, exactly. And like the amount of children's and YA authors out there who are doing this, it's just, you have to leave a little bit of room for your reader to bring their imagination to a story. And I think Louise does that perfectly in this book.
And there is a modern slant to this book, because quite often with those classics, and I know from reading stories to my own children, the older stories can be so chauvinistic.
They really can. And I think
cruel.
And very cruel and actually quite violent.
Very go into the woods.
No, I know that's it. And the thing is, now we're looking at things from the female gaze. We're looking at stories from a female perspective. These stories have always been told traditionally from a male viewpoint, but this is from the Little Mermaid herself, from her eyes, and that's what makes it so magical and beautiful.
So what age group is this ideal for?
I'd say teenagers, definitely.
Teenagers.
You know, it's for older kids,
Boys
really.
and girls?
Boys and girls. Like, the thing is, with all these books, they can be read by either gender, which is brilliant.
Which is lovely.
Yes.
OK. Claudia. Dear Mrs. Bird.
Oh, that's a lovely book.
This is London.
I loved it. It's basically set in the Blitz in London. And you know how, I don't know if you find this, Caroline, but with a lot of fictional characters that you read about now, there's an awful lot of navel-gazing, introspection, pages and pages of a character analysing their own feelings. And this is none of that. It's just, it's sort of, no plot spoilers, but it's, oh, my family were all just blown up in the Blitz and my house exploded. Oh, well, chin up, mustn't grumble. You know that terribly British chin up, let's get on with things. And you think what people lived through, and it just, you are the research in that book is absolutely astonishing. And apparently the author got the idea from reading old problem pages from the 1940s.
Really?
And it was really horrific things. It was women writing in who had got married to servicemen who they knew for a very short, you know, pressure cooker relationships. So they knew for didn't really know at all. And then the husband is shipped off to God knows where to serve king and country. And these women were all of a sudden meeting these gorgeous-looking American GIs who were over. And all sorts of relationships were happening that shouldn't have been, because that's human nature.
Of course.
And writing into the problem pages with recognising the problems by comparison today are nothing.
An incredible source material, though, those problem pages with the stories, each one of them alone
is a novel.
Be a standalone novel.
Absolutely.
There's an idea. But it's just, I just love the kind of chin up, mustn't grumble.
And that was very true. That was the way people lived. That's how they got through it, really, isn't it?
You just got up and get on with it.
They just had to,
They had no choice.
They had no choice.
Exactly. So that's Dear Mrs. Bird. That's very interesting.
Caroline, Moonrise from Sarah Crossan.
So, I mean, I'm just a massive Sarah Crossan fan. She is our new Laureate Minogue, which is amazing. She's a great writer. But this is a very unusual book because it's about a boy called Joe, and he's 17 years old, and his brother has gone missing, and he's not in the story. And Joe goes to find his brother, and he's on death row. So it's not your normal story. It's a very thought-provoking, it brings up big questions such as, forgiveness. How do we forgive someone if something terrible's happened?
Yeah, so there's important lessons for younger readers.
Yeah, and this again is a teenage book. I'd say about 14 plus for this book, but it's an absolutely stunning book.
The Sunday Times Book of the Week said, and I quote, "Any reader with a heart will weep." Buckets.
Yes, it really. I mean, I every time I read a Sarah Crossan novel, I do end up crying because you really feel you are listening to the real stories of people. You know, she's great. Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful to see young adults just really coming into its own?
I
was in Easton's, and you know their new department.
Yes, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
But it's so important, isn't it? Because it's a phase of your life where it's easier almost to stay up and watch a movie than it is to go to bed and read a book.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
And I remember growing up, we didn't really have a YA section, so we would go straight from kids' books into adult books.
Exactly, there wasn't the transitionary
to Agatha Christie.
Exactly.
But
so
now that YA category is probably the biggest.
It is. It really is, and anyone can read it, which is brilliant.
Caroline. No, Claudia. Norse mythology.
Oh, actually, this is kind of crossover. We're kind of feeding into each other here. Are you a Neil Gaiman fan?
I've never read any of his
Me neither.
Really?
Neil Gaiman is... there's just
Lisa,
nothing...
our floor manager is. She's not.
He's amazing.
But it's like there's nothing that he can't write. He writes for television, he's written for children, he's written for young adults, he's written adult books. A lot of his work has been made... How to Talk to Girls at Parties was made into a movie recently with Nicole Kidman, no less. And that started out as a short story. But he came over for the Dublin Book Festival and he spoke at the Convention Centre. There's not too many authors who can pack the convention centre. And there was queues to see, it was unbelievable. But this book I picked, The Norse Mythology, because I thought there's something for everyone here, for young adults and for grown-ups. And it's basically the Nordic myths, but retold in a very modern, very funny way. He's very, very funny, very accessible. Like he has a story about Thor, the god of war and thunder, losing his hammer. And it's been stolen by a rival god, so Thor dresses up as a woman to try to get it back from him. And they're going to get married, and Thor is going, no, I can't do this, I can't do this. But it's just, it is.
I mean, Neil Gaiman's imagination, there's no limit to it. It really is. He's a phenomenal writer.
But the humour is absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Very,
it definitely is,
I mean, there's nothing, if he said he was writing an opera tomorrow, I'd go, oh, okay.
It'd be great.
There's nothing he can't do.
Ladies, tell us very quickly, you're on book number 492.
15.
Is it 15?
Is it out? Coming out?
Thursday the 26th, this
and
Thursday.
It's called?
Secrets of Primrose Square.
Give us a little
Well, it's about how well do you really know your neighbours.
That old chestnut.
You have a mother whose daughter has been lost to a teenage suicide. And the book begins with this mother, and she's standing outside a 17-year-old boy's home, staring at his bedroom window, fixatedly. And you think, is she crushing on some young guy? And it's that she blames him for her daughter's death. And a widow then next door who's about to break a bombshell to her own family.
And it's out this Thursday.
Yeah,
and Caroline?
Yes, my book is The Girl Who Ate the Stars. That's my newest book, which is about wolves and folklore, and it's set in Ireland in World War II.
When is it out?
That one's just out. It's out in March. So that was my latest one. So it's getting great reviews.
You can buy it now.
Yes,
Ladies, continued success. Thank you for coming in. Lovely to see you.
Thanks
we'll
for having us.
see you in the gate.
You will indeed.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
He's there, that's for sure.
I'm there.
My goodness, it's brilliant. You'll enjoy it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Now, still to come, we're meeting the Adonis of this year's Love Island. Stay with us as we catch up with Adam and Zara.
Up next, though, a science experiment with Laura in County Offaly. See you in a couple of minutes.